You know, the question I probably get every day right now is a question that everybody wants to know, but I think it has a very simple answer. The Eagles are 3-0. The Eagles are playing in a weaker conference. The Eagles were one drive away from winning the Super Bowl last year. Will Howie Roseman make a trade before the trade deadline? You better believe it. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, King Dingbat here. Hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing. Hope you're hanging in there. Happy Football Friday to all you dingbats out there. I hope each and every one of you guys are doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. The question is are the Eagles interested in going out and making a trade before the trade deadline? And I've got to tell you, yes, they are. Absolutely 100,000%. Howie Roseman is going to pull something off. It's just a matter of how big, pause, and what is it. To me, this is a no-brainer. We know Howie Roseman. We know the history of Howie Roseman. And it tells us Howie Roseman is going to make something happen before the trade deadline. Now, before we get into all of it, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, make sure you hit that like button. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to the most censored, the most throttled, pause, Eagles content creator in all the internet. And if you've been subscribed for a while, I just want to thank you so much for the support you give to me. It truly means a lot. Now, a lot of people want to know, are the Eagles going to go out and make a move before the trade deadline? Because listen, we're not like the Cowboy fans. We don't believe our own press. We don't believe our own clippings. You know, this is a 3-0 team. But if you didn't know what the Eagles record was and you just listened to Eagles fans, radio shows, if you would just sit back and listen to what you're hearing, you would think the Eagles might have been lucky to win one game. Nobody has been satisfied with the way the Eagles play because we know that the Eagles can play much better. However, you can't deny one true statement, and that is good teams find a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. And the Eagles right now are sitting at 3-0, okay? And it's very simple for me. My immediate goal for the Eagles is this. Go out and beat Washington on Sunday. That's the immediate goal. Go out and beat Washington, all right? The short-term goal is simple. Be undefeated when you play Miami. Go into that Miami game, what I believe it would be 6-0. Get to that point and go into that Miami game at 6-0. I think you'll be okay. Let's see. Let me make sure my right. Is my math right? You got Washington. You got the Rams. Then you have the Jets. And then I believe you have the Miami Dolphins. So that would be 6-0. So if the Eagles could do that, that would be awesome. Following, after going 6-0, make sure you're in a situation where you can pull a trigger on a big trade. A steal, you want to get somebody. This team needs some help in some areas. And I think the best way to do that is through the trade. When you're this close to winning a Super Bowl, when you got the roster you have, and you have that extra second-round pick just sitting out there from New Orleans, I got to think that you have a second-round or a third-round pick to play with in a trade. And I would be really shocked. I really would. I would be shocked that if the Eagles go through the deadline, which I believe is, I think it's October, I think it's Halloween. Right around there is the trade deadline. I would be shocked if the Eagles did not pull the trigger. The question is going to be, what is the position that they're going to go out and get? And minus and barring injury, knock on wood, that no injuries come up to anywhere else right now. But right now, there's 3 spots that I think you have to go out and try to improve. There's only 2 of them that I actually think the Eagles would do something with, okay? The first one, you can say this is the most important. You could say you disagree. I'm not really worried about ranking them, but the number 1 spot I'll talk about is I think you have to go out and get another linebacker. If you could go out and get a guy like a Patrick queen, let's say, I think that would be a tremendous help to the Eagles and the depth. Now, I actually liked the way Nicholas Morrow played the other night, and I liked the way Cunningham played the other night. I thought they played good. But what happens if one of those guys goes down? We're so thin at the linebacking position. We will get Dean back at some point, but Dean's also young. He's got to play. He's going to make mistakes, and people don't seem to have patience with him. I personally do. I think Dean will be fine, but a linebacker is a possibility of somewhere you could go out and make a significant move. The other place I think that you could go out and make a trade. Now, I actually think that this position is the most likely position to get help. Okay, and I'm talking about the safety position. We're going into Washington's game without Justin Evans, without Sidney Brown most likely. Now, I'll have my preview prediction video out, sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll have that out later on today. But, it looks like we're going to be without those guys. And being without those guys is a problem. Reed Blankenship, I like the way he's played when he's played, but he's already missed the game. And it just seems like safety would be a position, especially if the Eagles look at Sidney Brown as the future guy at safety, but they don't feel maybe he's exactly ready to take on the starting role on a full-time basis. The move might be to go out and get a safety. I'm talking about a guy like a Budda Baker. I'm talking about a guy like a Jeremy Chinn, somebody like that. I think those guys would be a great addition to the Eagles. Another name that is floating out there that could be potentially linked to the Eagles, this player the Eagles actually tried to get a few years ago, but KAREEM Jackson, the safety from the Denver Broncos, could be another guy. Now, he's 35 years old, I believe, so it would literally be for 1 year, but there are going to be options at safety. And I got to say this, right now, as we're talking, still at the end of September, wait a couple weeks. Wait for a couple of these other teams to keep, these key teams to keep losing and be out of it. They may get to the point where you get names that aren't even being talked about, aren't even being thought about, all of a sudden become available. What happens, if Minnesota keeps losing? Are they going to look to trade players? What if the Giants keep losing? Are they going to look to trade players? Not to the Eagles, but just in general. There are going to be teams that in a couple weeks are clearly going to be out of this thing already. And they may start to look to dump some players. KAREEM Jackson for the Broncos could be a perfect example. So we have to wait and see how he's going to take advantage of. And I think that's part of the reason why right now there's no need to pull the trigger. You want to do it closer to the deadline. But to me, if I had to choose somebody like Jeremy Chinn, I think that would be the best case scenario because he's young and because of the fact he's in the last year of a deal. And you have Frank Reich in Carolina, almost like California, in Carolina. It may be a perfect situation. And we know that the Eagles were this close, were Mark Holmes away from basically drafting Jeremy Chinn over Jalen Hurts. So that's a guy, that's a name that we definitely have to keep our eye on. Of course, I think Budda Baker, we'll be watching him too because he's already been linked to the Eagles. He's already talked about how much he loves the Eagles coach. So there are players to possibly get. I've even heard the name Patrick Surtain. Now, I think Denver would be crazy to trade him, even though they stink, and even though they may have to rebuild. He's getting to the point in time where he can get a contract extension after this year as well. But he's young enough where the Denver Broncos should look to build around him. However, if there are rumors true, and if they were interested in trading Patrick Surtain, I get this question all week. Would I trade for Patrick Surtain? And the answer is probably. If I had an opportunity to get him, I definitely would. Now, you already have two good corners in Bradbury and Slay, but a guy like Slay is getting older, so you would do that and then move on from Slay next year. But I don't think it's likely. I think what's really likely is a guy like a Jeremy Chinn, a Budda Baker, even a KAREEM Jackson, somebody that could come in and help them right away at the safety position that, you don't even have to sign to an extension. Everybody assumes that if you go out and get Jeremy Chinn, you have to go and sign him to an extension. You really don't. If you think Sidney Brown can take over and you like Reed Blankenship, then what you want to do is you just want to get somebody that could come in for 1 year, a bridge safety, play, and then they can go on their merry way like a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. A guy like Jeremy Chinn, that would be perfect since he's, in the last year of his contract. So we got to watch it. Remember, the Eagles have 2 second-round picks. This is very important because to me, this frees up a second-round pick or even a third-round pick. A second or a third should be able to make a significant trade by the trade deadline. We got to let Howie work his magic. There's not one guy in this league that I trust more to make a trade than Howie Roseman. I know whatever it is, it's going to benefit the Eagles, and it'll be a good deal. It's just a matter of who. The other position we could talk about for a second, because some people have brought this up too, is the wide receiver position. Hunter Renfrow has been a name that has been out there. Will Hunter Renfrow be a guy that teams look to acquire as a slot wide receiver? Possibly. I would be interested in a guy like that. I will say, though, I thought the play of Oz versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers should have really had 2 touchdowns, but I think he's moved ahead of Quez Watkins on the depth charts, and I think he's going to be okay as our third receiver. So if we want to keep him as a third, make Quez the fourth, I'm okay with it. I really am. But if you have opportunity to get like a Hunter Renfrow, yeah, I think you could always look for something like that. And then, like I said, you just don't know what certain teams are going to do. A couple teams lose a couple more games. Maybe they have a guy that you have no interest in long term, but you could bring in 1 year to help you out. You take a chance and you do it. That's what Howie Roseman is very good at. And I expect that the Eagles are going to go out and make a move. I mean, you got to think about it. If you look at this division, or let's look at the conference right now. If you look at the conference right now, who are the top 3 teams in the NFC conference? I think it's the Eagles, the Niners, and the Detroit Lions. Those are your top 3 teams in the conference. But when I look at those teams, can they beat Philly? No. If they all have to come to Philly in December, in January, it's going to be a problem. They're not going to be able to come in and beat the Eagles. And the Niners play the Eagles late in the year, so that'll be a great test. But home field throughout the playoffs is what you need to get. Because remember, there's only one team now in the league that gets a bye week in the playoffs. The Eagles need that bye week. I think if they're playing at home, they have home field advantage. I don't think anybody is beating them coming out of the NFC. So 3-0 is important. 4-0 is even more important. Then 5-0. Build that record up because we got some tough games at the end of the year. But yes, the Eagles are very much in play to go out and make a trade. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm like 85-90% sure. I feel comfortable at saying I think Howie Roseman's going to make a move. It'll probably be like at the deadline or maybe a few days before the deadline. I don't expect it anytime soon. The sooner the better, but I don't expect it anytime soon. But I do think a safety is a position the Eagles are going to look to pounce on. So watch the teams that are losing. If there's a player specifically you think could be on the move, let me know. Maybe somebody I'm not missing. I'm not thinking a team loses a couple more games. But a guy like Jeremy Chinn would be a perfect fit for the Eagles. Just my opinion. So yes, Howie Roseman is going to make a move. It's just a matter of what. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Eagles are on a path to make a move by the trade deadline? I think with the 3-0 start, I think with a weak conference, I think the Eagles are definitely going to look to. And I think the 49ers are probably going to look to do the same thing. And Detroit. And then Dallas will probably, Jerry Jones is what, 6,332 years old. Happy birthday to him. It's his birthday, by the way, 6,333. But when you're 6,334 years old, it's very hard to remember everything and negotiate trades. Hard enough to negotiate contracts. I mean, he still thinks Troy Aikman is the starting quarterback. The guy's 6,335 years old. What do you want him to do? But, yeah. The Eagles are going to look to make moves. Some of these other teams like the Niners are going to look to make moves. It's going to be a very interesting front to watch. A very interesting thing to watch the GMs and that whole front to see what they're going to do. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision, baby. We're all just living in it. Yesterday, the Thursday night game proved my point yet again. The NFL made a mistake with Thursday night football. These games are always blowouts. They're never really that good, and it's just so annoying. I remember back in the day when Thursday was Thanksgiving Day, you were going to watch football. It was such a treat. It was such a big deal. You could not wait for it, and then boom. Now it's every week and everybody acts like they don't care. Now they're trying to really screw up Monday Night Football and actually put 2 games on at one time when most people aren't going to watch both games because they just don't have time. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Go back to Thursday football is only on Thanksgiving Day and one Monday Night Football. That's what I think the NFL should do. Denzel Washington out.